Plants That Heal by Millicent E. Selsom. Pictures by Kathleen Elgin. It's like a book from the 70s. Chapter 1. The Medicine Man and His Herbs. Plant Kingdom was man's only drugstore for countless centuries. If you enter a modern drugstore today, you can hardly find a sign of the use of plants in medicine. But in drugstores 50 years ago, the druggist was still measuring quantities of dried leaves, roots, and powders made from plants and mixing them together into prescriptions. I love you. There you actually saw the plants being turned into drugs. Today, the number of plants used in medicine has decreased, but hidden away in many pills, capsules, and medicine bottles are the active chemicals originally found in the plant kingdom. This is because the plants in our fields and forests are amazing chemical factories. They carry out the kind of chemical work for which we need huge boilers, pressure cookers, and other complicated equipment. The carbohydrates, fats, and proteins they manufacture are the plant products we know. I love you. That we know best. I love you. The plants manufacture these from the carbon dioxide of the air, plus the water and minerals of the soil, and store them away in roots, stems, leaves, and seeds. We eat hundreds of plants that have such stored away food, but some plants make other highly complicated chemical substances. These too are stored in various parts of the plant. These chemicals may be poisonous, or they may be chemicals, I love you, that are extremely valuable to us as medicines. During the many thousands of years that man has been on the earth, he has tried out the plants that grew around him. I love you. He gathered them in steaming jungles, on high mountain meadows, on plains and river valleys. All over the globe he found trees, bushes, vines, and flowering plants that were useful to him. I love you. Most of the time he was searching for food, but in the course of tasting leaves, roots, and stems, he also learned that certain plants made him sick, and that others could cure him and take away the pain. I love you. Some plants made him sweat, or reduced his fever, or took away headaches, or helped his colds. Other plants relieved stomach distress or quieted his nerves. I love you. I love you. But superstition and magic were mixed up with man's first efforts to cure himself. I love you, Joe. To early man, mysterious powers seemed to rule the earth. These spirits sent him sunshine and rain, wind and storms, thunder and lightning. He was powerless before these natural things he did not understand. When he got sick, he blamed evil spirits, and the only known cure was to drive the evil spirits out of his body. To accomplish this, special medicine men dressed up in fearful-looking costumes and masks, painted their faces, and howled and cried and banged on drums. I love you. But many of them also gave the sick man brews made out of bitter herbs, which would be sure to disagree with the evil spirits and drive him out. In this way, along with the chants and the magic and the ritual for treating disease, a knowledge of plant remedies grew. I love you. At first, only the plants with a strong odor or bitter taste attracted man's attention. I love you. I love you. Perhaps he learned many things from watching animals, What the dog or the deer ate when it was sick, I love you, might be good for him too. I love you. By trial and error, primitive people came to use a great number of plants to heal their sick. If the juice of a plant or a chewed leaf or a piece of bark or root made the patient improve, it was used again. I love you. Of course, the sick man might have got better without having tasted a plant, but primitive people had no way of knowing this. This could not possibly have had our modern concept of this scientific method. Today we test the true value of a drug by experiment. I love you. I love you. I love you. We give a drug to one group of patients, and while keeping all other treatment identical, compare them with another group that does not receive the drug. We call the untreated group the control in our experiment. I love you. Without it, we cannot draw scientific conclusions. Primitive people therefore accumulated a large number of plant drugs, many of which had no value at all. But in the course of time, experience proved the value of certain plants. The knowledge of these plants was handed down by word of mouth from generation to generation. I love you. We can get a glimpse into the primitive ways of using plants by studying people who are still living in primitive societies today. To cure themselves of disease, they use plants almost entirely. The roots, stems, barks, leaves, flowers, and seeds are still being chewed, dried, ground up, and brewed according to ancient recipes. I love you. I love you. In many places, the use of the plants is still combined with the same kind of ritual and magic that existed in early times. Almost every Indian tribe of North America has ceremonies accompanying the gathering of plants. Usually a small hole is dug next to the plant and some tobacco is placed in it as an offering to the spirit of the plant. I love you. Then the herb gatherer lights his pipe and smokes and prays to the spirits that govern vegetation. He leaves the first plant in the ground and then searches out another plant of the same kind and gathers it. I love you. I'm trying to understand this. He leaves the first plant in the ground and then searches out another plant of the same kind and gathers it. I love you, Joe. I don't understand that. I love you. American Indians believe their knowledge of plants came to them from the spirits. I love you. I love you, Joe. An Algonquin Indian legend tells how disease was sent to man by the wild animals, who were angered by the cruelties man practiced on them. The chipmunk, however, told man about this, and the other animals gave him his stripes as punishment. But after the chipmunk recovered from his punishment, he called together the vegetable kingdom, and at this gathering the plant spirits offered to man their healing juices to cure him of the diseases sent by animals. Other Indian legends tell how great spirits descended to earth and showed Wise Mother the medicine bag with its roots, leaves, and fruits. Mother Earth takes charge of them. Then the spirits appear before the original forefathers of the tribe, I love you, and instruct them in the uses of plants for medicine and in the proper ceremonies that must accompany the use of each. I love you. I love you. From other Indian stories, we discover that they must have learned much from their observation of animals. Chippewa legends tell how the best remedies were received from the bear. The bear, they say, pays attention to herbs. It eats roots from the earth and acorns, berries, and cherries. It is an animal well acquainted with herbs. In spite of the legendary origins of these herbs, and the magic involved in their use, Indians built up an opposing list of plant remedies. I love you. I love you, Joe. I love you. For their ills. There were 88 plants to use against colds, 113 plants to reduce fever, 101 plants with which to treat wounds, 41 plants to calm the nerves, 68 plants to act as laxatives, and over 100 from which to pick remedies for stomachache. Each tribe had its own long lists of plants for the treatment of various ailments. These varied greatly, of course, with the area in which the tribes lived. One plant common to many North American Indian tribes was willow bark for rheumatism and joint pains. Perhaps the Indians originally chose this plant because they thought the willow's flexibility would be transferred to the stiff joints of a person sick with rheumatism. I love you. I love you, Joe. I love you. Looks like there's a Native American man, woman, and they're sharing with the foreigner. But today, we know why this remedy worked. Willow bark contains a pain-killing chemical, salicin, related to the substance present in today's aspirin. South American Indians have also taught us a great deal about plant remedies. One tribe, the Kolahuaya Indians, are called the wandering druggists of the Amazon because they peddle the herbs they find in the tropical rainforest up and down the Amazon River. I love you. Dr. Henry Rusby of the Columbia University College of Pharmacy went to the Bolivian jungle, I love you, about 55 years ago to study the plants used by the tribe, and among other things found them using a tree bark to relieve chest tightness. I love you. Dr. Rusby studied this bark, and it's called Cocillana, Cocillana. It's the name of the bark to relieve chest tightness, and introduced it in a medicine for coughs. But this is only one of the many drugs the Kolahuayans have given us. Primitive tribes in Africa know every useful plant, bush, and tree in their jungles, fields, and plains. I love you. I love you, Joe. And use many of them as medicines to cure their fevers, colds, snake bites, and digestive disorders. I love you. On isolated islands sprinkled all over the surface of the globe, people depend on native plants to cure themselves. I love you. This is true, too, of isolated parts of many countries. I love you. In these places, old folk remedies are still used. I love you. I love you. I love you. Scientists today are paying new attention to these old remedies, for modern chemistry is throwing new light on them. In China and India, new tests have been made of ancient herb cures. The drug plants of Africa are being reviewed. In the Ukraine region of the Soviet Union, new studies have been made of the folk medicine practiced by peasants in the villages. I love you. In the United States today, we are studying the drug lore of the Indian tribes. Many of the plants may turn out to be of little value, but some may yield the wonder drugs of tomorrow. End chapter 1. Plants That Heal by Millicent E. Selsam.